These sessions are based on the book The Messiah Codes Unsealed.
Hi, this is Luis. Welcome to the Messiah Codes. This is session 2, an introduction to the calendars. Before we begin, let's do a quick review of the last session. The proposition is that we will find undeniable proof that God concealed very important and incredibly precise prophecies, all chronologically fulfilled inside the 7 Jewish festivals and 3 appointed days. It's important to stress that the events prophesied by the festivals and appointed days are not fulfilled randomly or out of order, but rather they occur in order, chronologically, reflecting God's orderly nature. These dates are found in Exodus 12 and Leviticus 23, and those prophecies mark, chronologically, the most important dates in the life of the Messiah and the life of the ecclesia, or the time of the ecclesia, or the church, who are those who trust and have a personal relationship with Him. There is a fourth appointed day, the Sabbath, which is related to God's calendar of completion, as we will soon study. The festivals and appointed days are divided into two groups, the spring festivals and the fall festivals. 4 Jewish festivals and 2 appointed days are celebrated in the spring. We will prove that all the prophecies related to the spring festivals and declared days have been already fulfilled in chronological sequence. There are no festivals or appointed days in the summer because it's the era of the church. There are 3 Jewish festivals and 1 appointed day celebrated in the fall. The prophecies related to the fall festivals and the appointed day are yet to be fulfilled, and following the pattern God left in the spring festivals, they will be chronologically fulfilled. It's important to understand the calendars if you wish to get deeper in the prophetic mysteries and understand how God uses those calendars to reveal those messages. Remember that calendars mark cycles. Also, attention to detail is key to the decoding of those prophecies. Remember that God said that He will speak to us like in a strange tongue, like in a strange language. Today we will study our calendars, which is the Gregorian calendar. These are our modern solar calendar, which is about 365 days long. We are including also the sidereal years and another way of measuring the year that we will study. We will also study the Jewish calendars, which are based on the lunar year, which is an average of 354 days a year, except on leap years, and these are the calendars, the civil or the original old calendar, the religious calendar, and the 19-year calendar. And God's calendars, the prophetic year, which 1 year equals 360 days, or the average of the solar and lunar years, the Jubilee calendar, 7 times 7 plus 1 equals 50, and the calendar of completion, 6 plus 1 equals 7 cycles, and is attached to the concept of the Sabbath. So let's study our calendar first, the Gregorian calendar and the sidereal year. The Gregorian calendar is our modern solar calendar and got its name from Pope Gregory XIII, who introduced it in 1582. It corrected some deficiencies of the Julian calendar, which was proposed in 46 BC and then implemented in January 1st of the year 45 BC by Julius Caesar. The Julian calendar corrected the Roman calendar, which itself is based on the date of Rome's founding. The Gregorian calendar, or the Gregorian year, is based on the orbit of the Earth around the Sun, which takes an average of 365.25 days, or actually a 400 average of 365.24217 days. There is approximately a 0.25 day extra day every year, so every 4 years we have an extra day and we add it to February. So February, instead of having 28 days, has 29 days. But the length of the Gregorian year is not exact, it's an average, and God is exact. Is there a precise way to measure the length of the solar year? To that end, we find guidance in Genesis, Remember that the Bible interprets itself. So we read in Genesis 1:14, and God said, "Let there be lights in the firmament of the heavens to divide the day from the night, and let them be for signs, and for seasons, and for days, and for years." So, letting the lights in the firmament be for days and for years, we find that the way to calculate the length of the solar year using the stars is called the sidereal year. According to the State University of New York, astronomers prefer the sidereal year for planning their observation, or sidereal time, because it doesn't change. The sidereal year is a method that fits God's instructions. Therefore, is the value for the length of the year that we will use throughout this session, or sessions rather, to make precise prophetic calculations. The sidereal year takes exactly 365.25636 days. It has more decimals. Using 5 decimal places is already a higher level of precision than we can reasonably need. The difference between the Gregorian and sidereal year is small but important. One more thing, a day in our calendar goes from midnight to midnight. While the Gregorian calendar is based on the Earth's cycles around the sun, or roughly 365.25 days per year, the Jewish calendar is based on the time it takes the moon to go through its phases, which is about 29.5 days per month. And a year of 12 of these cycles is about 354 days long, except for the leap years, when a month gets added to the calendar and the year has 384 days on the average. So we have, in the Jewish calendar, we have the civil year calendar, which begins in the months of Tishri, in September, October, and dates back to Adam and Eve's banishment from the Garden of Eden. Then we have the religious year calendar, which begins in the month of Nisan, which is 6 months after the month of Tishri, or March, April. It was declared by God when he proclaimed a new beginning in Exodus 12. Structurally, both calendars are the same. The difference is the month when each calendar begins. So this is basically the calendar with the festivals. There is a difference of about 11 days between the solar year and the lunar year. 365 days minus 354 is about 11 days difference. So the Jewish calendar adds one extra month to some years during the 19th year cycle, making those years 13 months long. That is done to keep the harvest seasons and the calendars synchronized. If they didn't add the extra month, the difference between the lunar and solar years would accumulate and increase by 33 days every 3 years. We call the years with the extra month leap years. A leap year has, on average, 384 days. The extra month is sandwiched between the 11th and the 12th month, moving the regular 12 month into the 13-month position. We will observe that the way the new month is inserted into the 12th position complicates some prophetic calculations, but then math comes to the rescue. Like the Lord said, he will speak to us like in a strange language. The 11 days difference between the solar and the lunar calendar accumulates, which, as we just learned, is why the lunar calendar has to add an extra month every 2 or 3 years to keep the lunar calendar synchronized with the solar and the harvest seasons. That's the 19-year calendar cycle. If a leap month is not added, in a few years the Jews would be celebrating the fall festivals in spring. In an explanation, the Astronomical Applications Department of the U.S. Naval Observatory writes, the years in the Jewish calendar are counted in cycle of 19 years, of which 12 years are common years and 12 months apiece, and 7 years are leap years containing 13 months. Altogether, the 19-year cycle has 235 months. Leap years are now fixed in the 3rd, 6th, 8th, 11th, 14th, 17th, and 19th year of each cycle. The point is that as we advance with the model, you will observe the importance of the 19-year calendar as it reveals some of the most significant prophecies in the Bible. The Lord left us all the information we need to solve the prophetic mysteries inside the Jewish festivals, and every detail is important. A day in the Jewish calendar goes from sundown to sundown. They fall within 2 of our days, so to identify on which day an event occurs, you need to know the hour. For instance, according to the calendar converters, in the year AD 30, the 14 days of Nisan, which is Passover, began on the sunset of Tuesday, April the 2nd, and ended on sunset of Wednesday, April the 3rd. So because Jesus died around 3 p.m., we know that he died on Wednesday, April the 3rd. That Passover in the year AD 30 fell on a Wednesday is not my opinion. This can be confirmed by calendar converters from Harvard's math department, Formilabs, the Hebrew calendar converter Hevcal, and other calendar converters. You're welcome to search. Be careful when converting Hebrew years to Gregorian years before Christ, since the converters may use the astronomical convention which uses year 0, so we have to add 1 year to the Gregorian year, up to the year BC, right? Before Christ. Remember, this is only in the case that they use the astronomical convention in the years before Christ. So here we see, for instance, the NASA website saying, however, Exegus, that's Dionysius Exegus, which we will study, he's the one that calculated when Jesus was born. Exegus' dating system still lacks a 0 year, which makes calendar calculations awkward. The astronomical dating system refers to an alternative method of numbering years. It includes the year 0 and eliminates the need for any prefixes or suffixes by attributing the arithmetic sign to the date. So this is a technical point, important when you are using the calendar converters. If the calendar converter is using the astronomical convention, they add a year 0. For instance, if the calendar converter uses the year 0 convention, the year 4 BC in many calendar converters is our year 5 BC. A way to verify that you are using the right year BC is by checking the Julian year, which doesn't use the year 0 for years before Christ. The converters are accurate until the year 45 BC. Sorry for getting so technical. I'm trying to avoid that as much as possible. That's what in the book you can find all that information. But that is how people make mistakes in the calculations by not being really picky in terms of detail and granularity in the information. Remember that attention to detail is key. So finally, let's go over God's calendars. Let's begin with the 360-day prophetic year. A year in the Lord's prophetic calendar has 360 days. It is roughly the average of a solar and lunar years, all numbers rounded. So you have 365 solar days plus 354 lunar days is 719 days divided by 2, and it's 360 days when it's rounded. We confirm that it's 360 days long through examples we find in the Bible. For instance, according to Genesis 7:11, the flood began on the 17th day of the 2nd month. And we read in Genesis 8:4 that the ark rested in Mount Ararat on the 17th day of the 7th month, which are exactly 5 months. Then we read in Genesis 8:3 that the waters were upon the earth for 150 days. So 150 days divided by 5 equals 30 days, 30-day month, times 12 months is 360 days. Another example you can find in Revelation. You read in Revelation 12:6. The woman, Israel, fled into the wilderness to a place prepared for her by God, where she might be taken care of for 1,260 days. And then in Revelation 12:14 says, the woman, again Israel, was given the 2 wings of a great eagle, so that she might fly to the place prepared for her in the wilderness, where she would be taken care of for time, times, and half time, out of the serpent's reach. So 1,260 days divided by time, times, and half time, that's 3.5 years, equals 360 days per year. So whether we go to Genesis or Revelation, is consistent. So the Jubilee year, the Jubilee cycle is another calendar. Remember that calendars mark cycles, right? So the Jubilee cycle is, or calendar, is divided into two components. One component of 7 times 7 cycles, which equals 49 cycles, plus one component of one cycle, for a total of 50 cycles. Example 1. Calculate the Jubilee year. We read in Leviticus 25:8-10, count off 7 Sabbath years. 7 times 7 years, so that the 7th Sabbath year amounts to a period of 49 years. And then in verse 10, consecrate the 50th year and proclaim liberty throughout the land to all its inhabitants. This is the way to calculate, for instance, the Jubilee year. But example 2, how to calculate the day of the celebration of the festival of Pentecost. So now it's going to be a Jubilee calendar cycle, but in terms of days. We read in Leviticus 23:15-16. From the day after the Sabbath, the day you, not the Shabbaton, no, the day after the Shabbaton, the day after the Sabbath, that's what it says. The day you brought the sheaf of the wave offering, count off 7 full weeks. Count off 50 days up to the day after the 7th Sabbath, and then present an offering of new grain to the Lord. Then there is God's calendar of completion. We see in Leviticus 23:3 with the instructions regarding the Sabbath. This is a 7-cycle calendar composed of 2 parts, one 6-cycle phase and one 1-cycle phase. For instance, in 6 days God created the heavens and the earth, and on the 7th day he rested. So 6 days of work plus 1 day of rest equals 7 days to completion. But we'll find that also God uses other scales with the same cycles, the same calendar. God allocates 6,000 years for humanity's current era, plus 1,000 years of the millennial kingdom, for a total of 7,000 years to complete the cycle. We will study the amazing prophecy of those 6,000 years, really 120 Jubilee years, in depth in coming classes. In the next class, we will begin the study of the codes by studying the 3rd code, the mystery of the Passover, and the exact second of the Messiah's days. See you in the next section.